Courage. Courage.
Most of us are already well acquainted with this show, whether it was a part of your childhood or you happened upon its weirdness through a YouTube rabbit hole. For some of us, it was a gateway to finding a lifelong love for horror. But for the uninitiated few who have yet to meet the world's most courageous pink dog, I'll do some quick housekeeping. So this pink dog, Courage, lives on a farm in the middle of nowhere with his owners Muriel and Eustace Baggs, and was created by this genius, John R. Dilworth. There is something iconic about a show that reinforces its core identity every time you tune in, whether it's the lore of Avatar or the origin story of Samurai Jack. Those opening recaps anchor the world and keep the narrative fresh in your mind. Anyways, I want to talk about 2 episodes that became more horrifying the more you sit with them. To understand what I mean, you only have to look at episodes like The Great Fusilli or Club Cats. These aren't just monster of the week stories, they deal with the terrifying loss of autonomy. And with that, let us start with the episode The Great Fusilli. On January 21st, 2000, Courage the Cowardly Dog concluded its first season with an episode that would traumatize a generation. It didn't feature a screaming banshee or a cosmic horror. Instead, it gave us an alligator in a tuxedo. In The Great Fusilli, we start off with the signature barren wasteland of nowhere. The ground is a textured reddish brown dirt that stretches infinitely towards the horizon, emphasizing the isolation of the setting. Against this desolate backdrop, a caravan-style wagon, marked by its dark blue body and vibrant red roof, traverses the long, empty highway. One thing I love about this show is the backdrop. Each environment is meticulously designed to evoke a distinct wave of unease, utilizing surreal textures and distorted perspectives to maintain a constant state of discomfort for the viewer. It is a bold creative choice for a children's show, ensuring that the audience, regardless of age, feels the same lingering tension and atmospheric dread that Courage faces in every frame. Returning to the episode, the scene abruptly shifts to the Baggs farmhouse, which sits isolated in the desolate landscape of nowhere, as if it were a stage being set for its next unpleasant guest. Ah, there it is. The very recognizable living room. I already know what the place smells like. It won't be that typical old people's home smell and have the biscuit tin be filled with sewing kits, but home-baked goods, because Muriel will be all up in that kitchen. Eustace is reading the newspaper that looks like the Cheesecake Factory menu, whilst Muriel is sipping on tea and Courage enjoying the small piece he has, as it will soon be interrupted.
Ooga booga booga!
Before Courage could even catch his breath, after enduring the relentless, grumpy antics of Eustace, brassy horn blasts pierces through the farmhouse walls, showing that in the world of Courage, peace is never permanent. The sound ushering the elderly couple toward the porch to investigate this strange spectacle waiting in their driveway. All 3 of them do come out to see where the source of the sound is coming from, just treating it like any other day because the amount of ookie kooky spooky bull they face. A horn doesn't seem that threatening, right? We see that same stocky wagon we saw at the beginning. Unbeknownst to all of us, this isn't just a vehicle, it's a mobile stage waiting to be unfolded. If you have a knack for noticing details, unlike me, I tend to just blankly stare at the screen. You might have already guessed that this visitor is deeply rooted in the performing arts, signaled by the iconic comedy and tragedy theatre mask. Muriel says what we are thinking, and Eustace is being Eustace.
Big deal.
Then the Great Fusilli finally makes his entrance.
The only Fusilli magic stage.
And his fit is fitting. You see his little cape and hat with the feather tucked in the band. He reminds me of Mr. Pimp Named Slickback.
No need for the mister.
And I bring my world-famous magic stage right here to nowhere, just for you.
Because that's not suspicious at all. Muriel, in her signature sweetness and gullibility, finds this gator's charm amusing. Eustace, however, is a man of class, a man of culture, So what's his response?
I got my TV.
Courage, however, is the only one truly paying attention. Ever the cautious protector, he remains deeply skeptical of this random guest who has materialized from nowhere. The great Fusili approaches Courage, asking him if the stage calls to him, and Courage vehemently says no, but Fusili dismisses him, trying to encourage Courage to come on stage, with his actors vouching for him. But Eustace asks the question,
What actors? I don't see no actors.
and Fusili saying, don't worry.
That's the magic.
Magic? Now this is the part where we start sitting up and becoming vigilant with Courage, because we know Muriel and Eustace aren't going to do that. Fusili continues to try and entice them, asking if they've dreamed of the excitement of being on stage, putting on the makeup that takes away all the cares of life, becoming a star.
I'm a star!
Eustace shuts it down, but Muriel is a little intrigued, and that's good enough for the gator. Courage stands frozen, staring intensely at the theatre masts perched atop the wagon. He feels a cold wave of unease radiating from the twin cymbals. There is something deeply unnatural about the way the smiling mast seems to mock him, and the sobbing one mirrors his own internal dread. To anyone else, they are just icons of the arts, but to Courage, those frozen expressions feel like a grim prophecy of what's to come for his family. Fusili continues yapping with the slick, high-pressure energy of a used car salesman, dropping nuggets of fame and fortune that only solidify Courage's unease. Seeing the trap closing in, Courage frantically tries to warn Muriel, but the words die in his throat. He can't speak English to her or to anyone else in the world of nowhere, only to us, the viewer. Muriel gets on stage, delivering her lines as simply and as plainly as possible.
How? Now? Brown cow.
As she finishes, she receives a standing ovation from Fusili, but as the camera pans out, the reality is chilling. The seats are empty. There is no crowd, no fans, and no life in the darkness beyond the stage lights. Now Muriel acknowledges the applause, but she also questions Fusili, where is the audience? And without hesitation, he gleefully responds that they're always there.
When I was a girl, I did juggle a little.
Guys, comment below what your talent is. I'm really good at freestyle rap.
I buy out for 30, and everybody.
While Muriel happily juggles a chaotic assortment of heavy objects, Courage remains a nervous wreck. As Eustace begrudgingly storms on stage and approaches Muriel, he bitterly tells Muriel that she's making a damn fool of herself. Suddenly, Muriel's hand slips, and the heavy object one by one fall on Eustace's head. Or was it on purpose? As Eustace is dazed, the audience's thunderous applause erupts, filling the vast empty landscape of nowhere, and Fusili's face twisted into a look of predatory glee as he exclaims, "Bellissimo! You're a natural!" and wants Muriel and Eustace to join his magic stage and tour the world, leaving Courage in a state of visible distress.
What's in it for us?
You be rich.
That's good enough for Eustace. Now fully aboard Fusili's wagon, they're in their dressing room, and Courage follows suit, always in the background carefully observing what will unfold next. Fusili hands them the script. Muriel is intrigued and as clueless at the imminent danger she has put herself in, and Eustace's greed will always be his downfall. Courage sees his family falling deeper into this gator's trap, leaving him paralyzed by dread. He runs up to Muriel trying to warn them, but ends up getting kicked out of the dresser by Eustace or the gator. Courage explores the place and stumbles upon a barbershop quartet's costume and scans the area before he wears it. Heading towards the stage, he starts tap dancing and seems to be quite good at it, but the ghostly audience remains indifferent to his talent. They are mindless spectators who will gawk and applaud at anything placed before them. The gator, out of nowhere, is front and center, leading the hollow cheers with a wide, toothy grin. Even Courage, despite his paralyzing dread, finds himself momentarily swept up, like Eustace and Muriel. He has been intoxicated by the blinding starlight. his fear briefly replaced by the hypnotic pull of the applause. Fusili continues to egg him on, saying how the audience loves him. Courage continues to embrace the audience by bowing, but then things turn dark. Witnessing Courage being pulled into the trap just like Eustace and Muriel, the Gator asks,
"Feel the magic, no?" "Mm-hmm." "And once you feel the magic, you no wanna leave the stage. And then you no wanna leave Fusili. Ever."
Eustace and Muriel arrive on stage in their respective clown costumes. Fusili tells Courage that they will also be in the scene with Courage, and everyone should take their place as the show is about to begin. Fusili introduces the empty crowd the first scene called A Simple Family Life, starring Eustace, Muriel, and Courage. A warped version of their everyday life begins to play out on stage. Eustace reading the paper and Muriel sipping tea, but when Courage approaches Eustace pulls the same trick he did to Courage at the beginning of the episode, with Courage having the pie end up in his face and Muriel hitting Eustace on the head with a rolling pin. As the bags stand there humiliated and embarrassed by their own reflected behavior, the illusion of a star performance shatters. Fusili and the ghostly crowd erupt, not in praise but in mocking laughter. They clap and cheer whilst feasting on the family's dysfunction. Courage walks off stage trying to wipe the pie from his eyes whilst the other two continue to lap up the crowd's applause. Courage stumbles upon a door, opens it, and is horrified of what he is seeing. The dog sees a macabre collection of humanoid puppets dangling from the ceiling. They hang there ominously, their wooden limbs dangling in the dim light. It's clear that Fusili is quite the collector, and each silent figure is a grim trophy of a performer who took their final bow long ago. Courage notices 3 hooks with their names on it, causing Courage to freak out even more. Running out, he immediately goes towards Muriel and Eustace, who are still oblivious to the imminent danger, but before Courage can warn them, the great Fusili shows up, looking down at his actors at the catwalk, yelling below. Muriel starts to feel a little strange, with Eustace agreeing, but by that point it's too late for them to do anything. Strings start coming out of the mask, slowly latching itself onto Muriel and Eustace. Courage, hopelessly watching, knowing that it's too late. For once, the frantic plans and desperate bravery of his past are useless. He is powerless to save them. Above the heavy silence of his failure, Fusili's mocking laugh rings out, a sound full of twisted joy echoing through the theatre as he relishes the perfect execution of his plan. Their limbs have turned to wood, their minds now hollow, gives Fusili the power to control them, having become physical manifestation of puppets, toys to be played with for his own entertainment whenever he wants it. Courage tries to save Muriel, but Fusili stops him in his tracks, causing Courage to run off and having to find another way to save them. Running into the dressing room, he panics as Fusili is looking for him. He quickly hides just as Fusili barges into the room, scans the place but appears empty. Courage was able to hide in the makeup pot. Courage runs on stage, still covered in the white powder, and gasps at the horror he sees in front of him. Muriel is essentially pummeling Eustace with her rolling pin. Above them is Fusili, who is controlling Muriel's violent action, whilst Eustace, without any autonomy, is taking the beating, with Fusili maniacally laughing at the pain he is inflicting on his victims. Courage shows up with so much courage, stating that Fusili should leave them alone. You could say that the makeup took away all the cares of life, not caring on what happens to him to try and save his family. The Gator looks over and is startled as he thinks he sees a phantom due to the makeup.
Ah! It's a phantom!
Courage realizes he still has the makeup on, and before he can proceed to approach Fusili, the Gator loses his mind at what he thinks he is seeing a phantom and jumps off the catwalk. Courage runs up to Muriel and Eustace's puppet strings and takes them. Fusili now landing on stage where his victims stand. He is now facing an invisible audience. The spotlight is now on him as he says the lines.
How now, brown cow?
After taking his final bow to the sound of phantom cheers, the strings from the mast snake down for Fusili himself, falling victim to his own wicked trap. He remains frozen in a permanent pose of triumph. He continues to bask in the glory of the applause, oblivious to the fact that the theatre is empty and there is no audience left to watch. We cut to Courage relaxing on Muriel's lap, a scene that mirrors the beginning of the episode, but with a chilling twist. Courage scurries up the stairs to where the control bars hang. From above, he expertly manipulates the strings, bringing his family's wooden bodies to life, continuing to act out the simple day of family life.
The things I do for love!
This episode utilizes body horror and the loss of bodily autonomy. To Fusili, Muriel and Eustace are nothing but puppets for his own amusement, mindless entertainment making fools of themselves for the sake of phantom applause. Hence why when he showed them around their dressing room, he points to their new wardrobe, which consists of nothing but garish clown costumes. It is the ultimate indignity, signaling that in Fusili's eyes they aren't stars, they are merely the punchline to his cruel theatrical joke. The ending pushes this further into the realm of the macabre when Courage takes over the control bars. To cope with his trauma, Courage becomes the puppeteer of his own family's court, forcing their wooden limbs to mimic the domestic routines that once brought him comfort. This creates a disturbing cycle where the victim's autonomy is never restored. Instead, they are trapped in a permanent scripted loop of their worst traits, serving as a haunting reminder that whilst the show must go on, the people inside the costumes are long gone. Let's move on to the next episode that deals with the same loss of autonomy, but is a bit more violent than the last episode, called Club Cats. We start off with Muriel looking at an ad about cruise ships and wants them to go on vacation, especially when their daily life consists of avoiding being killed. Courage is excited, grabbing their bags, but Eustace, in his typical demeanor, is not interested.
I'm not getting out of this chair.
Cut to them ending up on the cruise ship and Eustace still in his chair.
Nope, not getting out of this chair.
This is why I think Muriel purposely dropped those items she was juggling. Muriel is playing bingo and is finding her holiday to be quite relaxing, with Eustace still not getting out of his chair.
Not getting out of this chair.
Courage, unfortunately, is unable to enjoy the cruise as he is feeling seasick. Needing to throw up, he rushes over and throws up in the cowl ventilator, which causes a malfunction in the engine, which also causes the ship to collide with an iceberg. The captain comes up on deck screaming for everyone to head to the lifeboats. Muriel doesn't seem to be alarmed by the commotion, and Eustace...
Not getting out of this chair.
Courage runs to Muriel for comfort as the ship collides with the iceberg, but then the captain calmly walks past them, stating that there is no damage.
No damage. As you were.
Which they happily do, with Muriel calling bingo. But then the captain comes rushing back with a life jacket, screaming tidal wave and to abandon ship. The cruise ship is swallowed by the wave, causing Muriel, Eustace and Courage to be shipwrecked.
No sir, not getting out of this chair.
Oh, now look who's out of their chair. Muriel is sipping on a cup of tea, which I don't know how she got that, whilst Eustace complains about how he didn't want to go on this cruise in the first place, and where's his chair? Muriel tells him to forget about the chair and join her for a cup of tea, refusing to let anything ruin this trip, but Eustace couldn't care less. As the camera pans away, it settles on a thicket of bushes where a pair of glowing eyes watches them from the dark. Night falls, and while Muriel and Eustace sleep soundly, oblivious to the danger, Courage is a nervous wreck. Consumed by panic and unable to rest, he begins frantically carving out his own Wilson, and does this all the way to the next morning. Then a pair of feline legs with a white jacket saunters over just as the old couple wakes up. The figure looms over them, and as they look over towards the figure, they are a bit startled.
Hello. Welcome to Club Cats. I'm Cats, your host.
Muriel and Eustace introduce themselves, and by that I mean Muriel, because Eustace is,
Where's my chair?
Cat stares at them blankly, with Eustace demanding, "What kind of club are you running here? Kat, still blankly facing them, answered in a monotone voice how it's a resort.
5-star.
Oh, hello!
Muriel is pleased that her vacation seems to be taking a positive turn, but Courage is suspicious as this figure comes out of nowhere and is trying to escort them to his resort, despite there being no signs of such. Kat gestures towards their accommodation, asking for their luggage, but Muriel explains how they don't have any luggage due to them being shipwrecked, but Kat isn't fazed by their unfortunate situation.
Pity.
He takes them to the resort, which is made of local materials such as straw and wood. All three of them are in robes, giving the illusion of being relaxed whilst on holiday.
Where's my chair?
I'm about to beat this bitch up.
Kat's deafening silence and complete lack of acknowledgement is unsettling. Whilst Fusili tries to entice his victims, Kat steadily guides them. He tells them to try the spa as they will feel transformed. Courage sniffs the drink in his hand and is repulsed by the smell. Heading out to grab a soda pop, he encounters something disturbing.
Oh?
Leave this island. Never return. Terrible things happen here. I say, don't you want your root beer?
Courage realizes that he was the captain of the cruise ship and immediately runs to Muriel to try and warn her. As he reaches them heading out of their room and following Kat, Courage, like always, tries to warn them, specifically Muriel. And just like clockwork, Muriel is oblivious to the imminent danger she is in and asks Courage if he's coming with them to the spa, but falls on deaf ears. Courage, using all his might to prevent Muriel from going to the spa, to no avail. There is a sign that there are to be no dogs allowed. Now this could be because Kat, who is a cat, hates dogs, or because they've had run-ins with this particular individual at the hotel and fully aware of the lengths the dog will go to. He understands that despite Courage's trembling frame, he will do whatever it takes to prevent his family from remaining in Kat's sinister paws. Muriel and Eustace still haven't learnt, with Eustace gladly accepting the rules, putting Courage on a dog lead and tying it up to a tree nearby. Even as Courage continues his frantic, high-pitched attempts to warn her of the trap, she remains completely unfazed. Eustace follows after her, looking back at Courage, giving his final statement.
Stupid dog.
As Courage is trying to break free, he hears unsettling screams and machinery coming from Muriel and Eustace. In cartoon fashion, Courage unscrews his head and proceeds to run to the spa doors. His heart sinks as Kat emerges, coolly wheeling out a washing Muriel, a heavy appliance that bears a haunting resemblance to his owner, confirming to be Muriel as she screams. Following close behind is Eustace, now transformed into a massive cold iron wrecking ball. As Courage watches in a rightful panic, Kat leads the transformed bags towards a massive, shadow-drenched coliseum. Courage sprints after them, but the gates slam shut, forcing Courage to find another way to get in by climbing the walls. Kat introduces the transformed Muriel and Eustace to an invisible crowd, playing the role of a twisted showman. Watching from above, Courage's panic intensifies as he realizes the gravity of the situation. Muriel, visibly distressed, even in her mechanical form, cries out a warning to Eustace.
Eustace, you're really going over the line here.
But Eustace, cold and heavy as a wrecking ball, dismisses her entirely, blaming his aggression on his new metallic nature. Without a second thought, he swings towards his wife, fully prepared to shatter her frame. The show typically frames him as verbally and emotionally abusive, but watching Eustace eagerly embrace his role as a weapon is deeply unsettling. It makes you question, is Eustace physically violent towards Muriel? Whilst Courage is in pure horror, witnessing his beloved Muriel about to be pulverized, Katz is enjoying the violence he has elicited on his victims. Muriel has had enough of Eustace's antagonizing in violent ways, and so has Courage, leading Courage to head back to the spa but quickly grabbing a beverage from the captain vending machine. Arriving at the spa, Courage gets his own procedures done and comes out as a helicopter.
I know I'm not gonna like this.
Making his way back to the stadium. During the battle, Muriel is standing up for herself. It's nice to see her fight for her life rather than constantly having Courage to do it. Courage, hovering over the Colosseum, heads straight for Muriel, but Eustace is still dedicated in attacking his wife. And whilst Katz is shouting for Courage to bring back his washing machine, Eustace realizes something.
Hey! That's my chair!
But in Eustace's hot-headedness, he destroys his chair by mistake, and whilst Katz is trying to evade Eustace, he ends up destroying the Colosseum. Meanwhile, Courage and Muriel fly off into the sunset, landing on a ship nearby. Muriel, when you get home, you're going to need to issue some divorce papers.
Yes, let's see how much he owes you, then let's see how much he owes you. You've been dealing with his attitude, cooking and cleaning for 20 years. Having sex with him when he wanted to. Was the sex good?
Nope, not lately.
Major deduction.
Courage, you don't look so good.
And you can visibly see Courage is exhausted, with him ending the scene by throwing up. The horror of the Great Fusili and Club Katz lies in their shared exploration of dehumanization, where the protagonists are stripped of their humanity and reduced to mere objects for a predator's amusement. While Katz treats sentient beings as disposable commodities for his sadistic games, Fusili takes this psychological violation a step further by not only physically transforming his victim into wooden puppets, but creating a haunting state of losing oneself, where agency is entirely erased. In the end, we've noticed that both Fusili and Katz don't care about the quality of the entertainment that is shown, just as long as they get that instant gratification. It doesn't matter if it's slop,
watch your kids, go walk away,
misinformed,
white man this, racism that, enough,
or very harmful.
Relationships between men and women are getting harder.
Just as long as they get you, the viewer, to watch. And that's why I find these two episodes to be extremely terrifying. Alright guys, well that concludes today's video. Like, share, subscribe, and also let me know what your favorite Courage the Cowardly Dog episode is. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.